What up, what up, what up? It is Jazari here for another episode of Free Talk Friday, where I'm going to talk about some of the biggest headlines of the week, some crazy things that happen, and all the mess that has gone down. Feel free to join the live stream. If you click the tiny URL inside the description, it'll bring you onto the show if you would like to participate and be a part of this episode. So, first off, what I do want to start with, because there has been a lot of news, Kendrick Lamar swept at the Grammy Awards. He won 5 Grammys for his diss track against Drake, Not Like Us. Honestly, I honestly didn't think that this song was going to blow up the way it did. I mean, nobody thinks that this track is going to blow up the way that it did. But Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us swept at the Grammys. It won what? One, two, three, four. Did he win seven? I thought it was five. But he won best rap music video, rap performance. Oh, this is on here twice. Okay, okay, okay. Record of the year, song of the year, music video, all of that. Kendrick Lamar swept at the 2025 Grammys. Uh, I listened to the New York Times had an interesting episode this morning talking about how this is the Daily, and they were talking about how this whole thing happened. So the beef that he and Drake had, what spiraled it, like what started it all that kind of stuff. And some of you guys might know that Kendrick and Drake used to be friends. You know, like Kendrick opened up for Drake in his earlier days, and they were featured on a couple songs together. And oh shoot, sorry, whoops, the set is falling apart. But yeah, so Not Like Us ended up blowing up. It went number one. It topped the Billboard charts. Kids were dancing to it at their bar mitzvahs. People were shouting it from the rooftops at clubs all around the world. Not Like Us was a global phenomenon. And that song is a bop. So a lot of people are talking about this. Kendrick Lamar is performing at the Super Bowl this weekend. So there's a lot of, speculation as to, is he going to perform Not Like Us? Is that going to be on the set list? People are kind of speculating what he's going to do. And is he going to is he going to bury Drake on the biggest stage that you could get? I mean, 100 million people watch the Super Bowl halftime show. Like, it's wild. It's a big deal. So there's a lot of questions on, is he going to perform it, or is he just going to let it die down? I think he might perform it. Honestly, I think he's going to open up with Humble and then probably close with Not Like Us. Or Not Like Us might be in the middle and Humble might be at the end. I don't know. I don't know. All I do know is that everybody wants to hear that song. Another artist that did phenomenal at the Grammys was Beyonce. So Beyonce won 2 huge awards for country. She won Album of the Year as well as Album of the Year, which is the biggest like Grammy that you can win. Album of the Year. Cowboy Carter was phenomenal. Cowboy Carter was phenomenal. It was a masterpiece. That album reflects on just the history of Black culture with country music, and then she uplifts so many up and coming country artists and some Black country artists that have been in the game that haven't gotten the recognition that they deserve. Were featured on that album. They performed with her at Beyonce Bold on Christmas, which was a stellar performance. A stellar performance. But yeah, I think Cowboy Carter was much deserved. A lot of people keep saying, well, Billie Eilish was snubbed. I think a lot of people are using the term snubbed extremely loosely. Extremely loosely. Everybody who was in that category was talented. Everybody, no one person deserved. When people say this person deserved to win, but that doesn't mean this other person didn't deserve to win either, right? So like when people say like Billie Eilish she went back into her past and like her trauma and all that stuff, and not to discount you, baby, but like at the same time, I mean, like, if we really want to talk about trauma and like how that has been in the music, I mean, Beyonce went back to the trauma that Black people face, like with, country music and all of that stuff, and just the collective group being robbed of stuff that they created. Little history lesson. So the banjo and the fiddle were first used in an ensemble by people who were enslaved. You know what I'm saying? So that created the foundations of what we know as country music. Okay. I'm not saying that where you're from is where, you, but I mean, like Beyonce, there's no rule saying that you can't win. You can't cross over genres. People saying, you're not allowed to make a country album. Who is that for you to say? I mean, like when Taylor Swift went pop with 1989 Fire album, one album of the year. That was her first whole pop album. You know what I'm saying? But then people say Cowboy Carter wasn't country, but then they think of like Red and all of Taylor Swift's other albums as country when arguably it was pop. Arguably it was always pop. I don't know. I don't know, but the Grammy Awards were fun. I loved watching the, interactions, Taylor Swift dancing to Not Like Us, so crowd screaming A minor. But you know what? Oh, the other thing, people were saying that Beyonce showed up, what, minutes before the country album was, and they bought and paid for it. Why didn't she buy Album of the Year earlier on? They have the money. If it could be bought, why didn't they buy it the other four times that she was nominated? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that she did a really good job. It was a masterpiece. She did excellent with it. And congratulations, Beyonce. Congratulations, Kendrick. You guys are doing so good. I can't wait for the Cowboy Carter tour. Like I said, I don't be going on tour. I don't go to performances like that. I don't go to concerts like that. But I will go to the Carter one. Just got to get me a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots. It's gonna be a vibe. It is going to be a vibe. Honestly, I didn't put things together as well as I probably should for this episode today, which I mean, it is Free Talk Friday, so it's just kind of chatting. I do have somebody who's going to be coming on here in a little bit, Anthony, to talk about some stuff that he's doing with a senator in the unicameral. Other than that, USAID was raided, maybe not raided, but Elon Musk's crew for the Department of Government Efficiency has. Let me come back to that. Let me come back to that because I do want to talk about the protests that had happened here at the Capitol. It was what, 50 states, 50 capitals, one day where people came together and protested everything that Trump is doing with the federal government, everything that Trump and Elon Musk are doing in the federal government. And I've been reading some of these comments, which I guess we can do because I think that's always fun. I always read the comments. People tell me, don't read the comments, but I read them comments. I read the comments. Where is this? I want to talk about this a little bit. Someone said I heard they're doing facial recognition on all of them. We'll be checking the IRS and I. Oh, what's this? Oh, wait, that is what Dems. I'm sorry, I can't follow along. I don't know what you're trying to say there. Yeah, what a bunch of losers. Wahaha. Too bad they wasted so much time at college and now don't have a job. Wild. Anti-American fuck. Whoa. Listen, Sarah, it was nice meeting you too. Uh, so I remember there was a comment and somebody was like, "Oh, Trump is your president now. Deal with it. That's how democracy works." But PJ is a waste of energy. Okay. What was the comment? I'm trying to find this comment because there was a comment that I really could have done a whole bit about. I think they deleted it. That's another thing. A lot of people comment and then delete. Anyway, so somebody was saying, "Oh, you know, Trump is the president and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, he is. Nobody's disputing that, right? Like, people aren't protesting the election results. People are protesting the things that he is doing, the executive actions that he is taking. And the fact that Elon Musk is out here doing whatever he feels like doing on any given day that he feels like doing it, with no Senate confirmation at the very minimal. I don't even know if he has security clearance. But either way, this is what the protest was about. A lot of it was just kind of uh, people. Department of Government Efficiency has people going out and just talking about and protesting just the way that things have been handled. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have been seeing ICE raids, people have been coming online on TikTok saying that they did not know this is how things were going to be. Leaving MAGA was trending on TikTok, which I thought was very interesting. And there is a guy on there who I do want to pull up his video in a little bit and just talk about, kind of what he was saying. But yeah, so a lot of people did turn out. I mean, there was a few hundred people out there. It was a pretty big protest. I hadn't seen a protest like that in quite a while here in Lincoln. Um, I went across and talked to some people. What I thought was really interesting, there are people who were not even eligible enough. They were not old enough to vote during this past election, but they were very passionate about some issues. Let me listen. Let's listen to these kids that I talked to. How long have you guys been out here today?
Just a few minutes, like 10, 20 minutes.
What are your guys' overall thoughts on how things are going? You guys look pretty young, so I'm guessing like.
We're seniors in high school.
Okay. So you guys didn't get to vote this election, did you?
No, I did not.
And how does that feel?
It feels pretty shitty.
It kind of sucks, yeah.
Just all the people around me.
Have you guys attended many protests before?
I've attended.
I've attended a handful, yeah.
Okay, all right. So what are you guys hoping today accomplishes, or what are you guys hoping happens in the next, I don't know, 6 months before the midterms?
Raise awareness. Raise awareness of how incompetent Trump is as a president.
I hope to send a message that there are millions of Americans who are scared and who do not want their rights that they've had for a while be taken away.
So even though that you guys were not old enough to vote in this past election, I'm guessing there were a lot of issues that were very important to you guys that you guys felt very passionate about. What were some of those things you guys were hoping a lot of people would cast their votes for?
Healthcare. Healthcare should not be a privilege. It should be a right. And I strongly believe that. Here in America, we think healthcare has to be a privilege, but I really don't think it should be.
What about you?
Like the planet and conservation, climate change is a big issue for me. And I wish more people took into consideration the effects that corporations and giving these billionaires so many leniencies that Donald Trump is doing, how it could be detrimental to our planet in the long run.
What do you think of him pulling us out of the Paris Climate Accords and also kind of just putting a damper and throttle on environmental protections for one, but also the push to move toward greener energy? You know what I mean? Trump has said many a time that he's for the 1950s, 1960s version of American automobiles and things versus the modern electric e-vehicles and stuff like that.
I think it's evil. Quite plainly, I think it's pure evil.
I was kind of devastated to hear that we were removed from the Paris Climate Accord. I think it we have a long way to go in the fight against climate change, and I think we were starting to make some progress, and I feel like it's kind of all being undone, and that we might suffer more than we would have before.
Yeah. So these kids, had pretty good opinions about just the state of everything. They talked about healthcare, how it shouldn't be a privilege, how it should be a right for people, the environment, making sure that they have a world to be able to grow up in and, be healthy in and, be able to live fulfilling lives. But yeah, I mean, after all of this stuff, right? There have been people coming out on TikTok who have been, sharing their experiences. I want to play this guy's video here on TikTok. I came across this, and a lot of people have been posting about it and doing stitches with it.
All I can say, I was a dumbass, voted for Trump only because of my belief. People around me encouraged it. I can think for myself, yes. But I felt at the time that was the better choice. Now I'm looking at it with everything going on. It was the worst decision I ever made. I wanted not to vote. But people said you won't be able to have a say in anything if you don't vote. I totally regret this. I shouldn't have voted at all.
Hold on, let me see if he has more, because I feel like there was more, you know? Dude, there's just way too much going on. There's just too much going on. You know, I'm sure you guys had seen that Trump talked about the US taking over the Gaza Strip and owning it and developing it. Okay, we do have a guest joining us in like 10 minutes. So there has been just a lot of talk about what Trump was saying, you know, as far as what does it mean that the US is going to take over Gaza and own it and develop it. And I thought the most striking thing was how, I mean, Netanyahu was just sitting there smiling at that press conference. And I was waiting for a journalist in the room to bring it up and be like, hey, like, you keep talking about it's a demolition site. However, the person responsible for said demolition site is here in the room with us. So, I mean, like, what is your, like, what do you make of that? You know what I mean? Like, what do you make about everything that went on and the person responsible for it sitting in the room? But of course, nobody asked that question, which I was really hoping that they would. And so he definitely walked it back because he got a bunch of outrage from the Arab world and, you know, a lot of even right-wing commentators were kind of just like, and right-wing journalists were just like, this is not, I thought we were like over with nation building, right? That's like what he was preaching in 2016, 2015 when he was campaigning, that we're done with nation building and all of that. And all of a sudden, oh, we got to move all these people out and we got to develop it and we're going to own this land. 2025 imperialism. That was quite wild. And so he walked those statements back because of the outrage that he got. And now it's kind of in limbo. You know, it's kind of in limbo. And CNN did a piece where they spoke with people who voted for him because, or voted third party because of everything that was going on under Biden-Harris, the Biden-Harris administration. Let me see if I can find the video. 1 second. So this is on Anderson Cooper's show.
At the top of the program, we laid out the administration's rewriting of what the president said last night about taking over Gaza and remaking it as a Riviera of the Middle East, his words. Regardless of what the people around him say he said it all on camera, and millions of people saw it, including Arab Americans, many of whom voted for him. More from CNN's Jason Carroll now in Dearborn, Michigan.
Days before the last presidential election, Donald Trump was the invited guest at the Great Commoner restaurant in Dearborn, Michigan. Albert Abbas says he extended that invitation, a decision he is now reflecting on given all that has happened in the last 24 hours.
Many in the community are at a loss for words. Last night was a very rough night for most of us.
Abbas is Arab American and one of a number of Democrats who voted for Trump. Abbas says he hoped Trump would do more than President Joe Biden did to help Palestinians suffering in Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
But after Trump said Palestinians should leave Gaza so it can be redeveloped, Abbas says not only does he feel betrayed, he's hearing from a number of people angered over his past support of Trump.
People were really, really frustrated. And I don't think there's anyone to blame. At the end of the day, as Arab Americans or Muslims, we really didn't have much of a choice.
Dearborn, a Detroit suburb, is home to the largest Arab American population.
He doesn't think that there is anyone to blame for that. I will say a lot of people complain that people are blaming third-party voters for the outcome of the election, and the common rebuttal is if you add up all of the third-party votes, it wouldn't have made a difference. However, we have seen that the collapse of youth turnout probably stemmed a lot from what was going on on the Gaza Strip with the Israel versus Hamas war. A lot of people got online on their platforms, on their TikToks, trash Kamala Harris. I think it was like a trendy thing to do because people were cosplaying as her, acting like pretty much trying to make her into a caricature, right? And dissuade people from voting for her. That was like a trendy thing. People were getting online and making these weird videos of themselves pretty much mocking her. And so that also has to be taken into account, how a lot of people were dissuaded from going out to the polls. And so when the argument comes up that, you know, all these third-party votes wouldn't have made a difference or moved the needle, however, I mean, it also dissuades people from showing up and voting for her. I said this about the 2020 election, when people talked about how Trump had so many people at his rallies and Biden didn't really have that many people. It was COVID and there was a lot going on, right? However, when Trump would get out and say a bunch of things that were just off the handle, like, you were kind of campaigning for the other guy too, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people would like hear your rallies and see all these things and be like, I'm just going to vote for the other guy because this is like way too much for me. And so I think that should not be discounted with all of this.
In the United States, a community which helped Trump carry the critical swing state. He won 42% of the vote in Dearborn versus Vice President Harris with 36% and Jill Stein with 18%. In 2020, Biden handily carried the city with 69%. Faye Nimmer voted for Trump in 2024 out of frustration over the previous administration's support of Israel. Now, she is troubled by the president's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza.
I mean, it's very concerning and it's infuriating.
Personal feelings, you're infuriated, but standing by your decision for now to have voted for Trump.
Correct.
And what would move that needle for you to say, you know what, I made a mistake?
Palestine is the red line for this community.
Nimmer says she suspects Trump is bluffing and is using his proposal as some sort of negotiating tactic. That's the same sentiment shared by Amar Zar.
First, this is clearly not going to happen, right?
And real estate broker Ali Alfarajala.
A lot of people are calling me and texting me saying, hey, you know, how did your vote work out? You know, how was that third party vote?
Both were so-called protest voters. Neither supported Trump or Harris. Are there any sort of second thoughts now about having supported a third party candidate?
Absolutely not. And I'll still do it again and again and again.
I didn't vote for Trump. So a protest vote, I don't know. I would say it was a targeted vote of conscience to say that the children of Gaza have to mean something. Their death has to mean something.
Okay, not to discount what he's talking about and what has happened to people on the Gaza Strip. However, foreign policy arguably how do I articulate this? If this was the red line, which I could understand you guys consider this a red line, now all of this other stuff is happening. Trying to dismantle the Department of Education, Elon Musk infiltrating all of these sensitive government systems and accessing a bunch of sensitive information on American citizens. That's like what we're stuck with. You know, I mean, civil rights era executive orders being rolled back that were signed by Lyndon B. Johnson to make things equal for people of color, specifically black people. And the thing that I keep talking about, how is black people always get caught up in situations that like we just had no business being in the first place. And so it is quite frustrating that this is where we are. I don't know. Honestly, it's been hard to be able to come on here on camera and like go through the news of the day. That's why like we're also like going through like internal things, and so it's kind of hard to like gather all the news and everything that has been going on and things that he said and all the clips and all the tweets and all the posts and all the executive orders and be able to come on here and talk about it. It's just like not enough time in the world for one person. Like I feel overwhelmed by all of this, as do a lot of other people. We'll circle back on that, but we do have a guest that is joining us. This is Anthony, who has been on the show.
Sorry about that.
No, you are good. Hey, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing?
I'm well. Sorry, I was like just blasting Radiohead. Actually, no, the Smile, which is Tom York, the lead singer of Radiohead's kind of side project, and amazing music. But just enjoying Friday, making some dinner, having some friends coming over, getting ready for Benson First Friday and whatnot.
Okay.
And yeah, just maintaining. It's always really good to be with you, Jazari. And I hear you. It's a lot right now. But what I've been saying to people, this is the point, right? Is to try to kind of like bombard us with everything and anything coming at us from all different directions. And that's the goal, is to get us, so riled up and so reactive that we don't get strategic, we burn out and whatnot. And I would just remind your amazing listeners that, like, look, we're not the only ones who are thinking about these things, whether it's draconian or unconstitutional executive actions. I want people to understand that the birthright citizenship attempt, to kind of use the president's office to overturn the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, that was blocked almost immediately. It took like 2 days for a judge to delay it. And then just this week, a judge issued what's known as a TRO, or a temporary restraining order.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage people to like read some of the judgments of these judges. Some of these judges who were appointed by Republican presidents as far back as Reagan, as it pertains to the birthright citizenship ruling. The judge literally asked, like, were there any lawyers in the room when the president wrote this executive order? Because it's so ridiculous. You're wasting my time, and you're wasting the time of the people of the United States. And then, as it pertains to like the spending freeze and trying to block congressionally appropriated money that's already been promised. We've got like 3 judges now that have issued temporary restraining orders, and in even governmental offices have issued memos to federal agencies saying, hey, look, this is a ruling. You have to follow this ruling, or yourself could be at risk for prosecution, because this is a court order, and if you disobey a court order, you are putting yourself at risk. So what's really happening now is we're seeing like and finally, what I would say, sorry, is that asinine attempt to try to get people to quit their jobs in federal government to take some payout, by the way, isn't even guaranteed, because our government is only funded for another month, right? And then Congress has to come back and try and come to a deal to fund our government, and they can't do what's known as another continuing resolution, which is essentially kicking the can, down the road. Because if you don't have a budget this time, right? There's been 3 CRs. You don't have a budget this time, there will be across the board automatic cuts, right? And nobody wants that. So systems are working. I know a lot of people are not believing in systems, and I see that. I think that's what's warrant. But don't freak out. It's better to be strategic than to be reactive. I'll let you know. You and I are both ardent supporters of the LGBTQIA community. I asked our friends Brianna Full and Kimmer Snipes, based on that ridiculous executive order that Trump signed, with all the little girls around him, which is kind of gross, in itself. But asked our, two of our school board members, are you going to issue a statement essentially telling schools that they cannot follow this executive order because it's unconstitutional pursuant to Title IX? And Title IX literally says you cannot discriminate based on gender or gender identity. So just like OPS, or Omaha Public Schools, issued sort of like some plan about what would happen with the draconian immigration executive orders, I'm hoping that we can see the same from all of our school boards across the state to do the same, because the bottom line is the law is the law. And as I've been saying, and I said it to you, Jazari, I wish that our lawmakers would stop spending 60% of their time trying to hurt less than 1% of the population, and less than 1% of their time trying to help the challenges being faced by over 60% of the population. And that's where we are.
I mean, I hear everything that you're saying, but like, it's the whole flood the zone tactic is intentional, right? Because if all this other stuff is getting tied up in court, then this policy can, skirt on by and get through. I mean, even think of things like Marco Rubio being unanimously, confirmed by the Senate. That was wild. And so now you have a lot of Democrats saying, okay, well, now I'm not just going to vote for anything, and they're going to stand up. I was watching Maxwell Frost's TikTok of them outside of the, the Department of Education.
Yep.
And they were locked out and they couldn't get in. But the thing is, I wouldn't say that I'm freaking out, because I knew this was going to happen, right? It's just, once it actually happens and you're overwhelmed and everything like that, it's kind of just like, oh my goodness. But the systems are only going to hold for so long. I don't think that, we are living in a late stage capitalistic society, which hasn't been done before. And so we're in a situation where it's kind of just the whole Department of Government Efficiency. And I was thinking about this earlier. What is the ultimate end game of this, right? They keep going in and saying, oh, all of this is being spent here and all this is being spent there. And I'm just going to come out and say it's complete bullshit that people are saying, oh, $10 million was spent in this African country to promote LGBTQ ideology. I mean, have you been to African countries? They're extremely conservative. That will not fly.
It's a death sentence in some countries, for sure.
Exactly. And so when you guys are coming out here and seeing, and I'm seeing people posting a list of oh, this was put here for this, or this was put here for that. And I'm just I highly doubt that these countries are receiving that money to promote that. And if they were,
right,
you would be hearing a lot more crazy things going on.
Oh, absolutely. And we also have to talk about the fact that it's very nuanced. I mean, USAID has also done some things that are quite frankly reprehensible, right? I mean, in our native continent, Africa, I'm from Sierra Leone, you being from Sudan, we know that USAID has propped up some authoritarian governments. They have done harmful things in the Revolutionary Republic of Haiti, Sri Lanka, other Southeastern Asian nations. But it's really funny that all of a sudden they're worried about this wasteful spending. Do you have any? I mean, we spend billions of dollars on airplanes that don't ever get built in the U.S. Right. And that's not a problem. But some sort of arts program, and arts is a very, very good thing to do in developing nations for young people. You and I both know the power that arts have in development and economic development, quite frankly. And it's really funny that we had no problem when we spent gargantuan amount of money to rebuild Europe after World War II through the Marshall Plan for white Europeans. But the moment that United States money is being spent on non-white populations, it becomes a major issue, all of a sudden, right? You were also talking about, the rebuilding of Gaza. Of course, the United States is culpable and needs to fork over some money. Those are our bombs that did that to that strip of land and to those people. And why is it any different for Gazans than it was for Europeans when our bombs, or United States bombs, not you and our bombs, but United States bombs,
the country's bombs, yeah.
Right, the bombs of our country did the same thing in Europe, and it was the right thing to fork over some coin to rebuild that. So I hear you. I mean, but again, everyone's just got to.
Same thing with Japan, right? Like,
yes. Oh my goodness, right? We nuked them, literally, right?
Right, and then built factories there, funded these factories to build the products that we then bought from them to like help stimulate their economy and like bring them back. Like this is this whole situation.
It's wild. I mean, the other thing is that though, I mean, look, we saw this, right? I mean, even like I would say probably one of the more accurate and genuine things that the Democrat Party was running on was this admonishment about Project 2025. We knew this, right? Like there's nothing to be shocked about. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about this idea of a shock doctrine, and there are elements of the shock doctrine that are happening now. But I say, what are you shocked about? This is really the doctrine of the status quo. We knew this was coming. And the best thing that we can do is organize. We can organize our attorneys general, but we have good attorneys general. Maybe we don't have one here in Nebraska, but we have good attorneys general across the country that are taking this on and are already winning. Good attorneys general like Letitia James out of New York, Howard University Law School graduate, big up HBCUs, who has taken on Trump before, who bankrupted the National Rifle Association and got them out of New York State. She's taking on Trump right now. And a lot of this work is going to be, unfortunately, in the courts. The courts are going to be doing a lot of legislating.
But the issue is that the courts move so slow. Do you know what I mean? Like the courts move so slow. What happened in Florida when they like appointed a judge or something like that? Like there are some things that once the courts catch up to it, the actual mission has already been completed.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, look, again, in the context of the government funding freezes, the attempt to essentially like eviscerate the federal agencies with employees, and of course the birthright citizenship thing, the courts acted pretty quickly, right? And the courts will act quickly if they do believe like this is a matter of life or death. This is, and bottom line right now, we have a constitutional crisis. We have a constitutional crisis, but that's really, it's almost like a good thing because like we need to know where we stand so we know how to organize and we know how to respond. We cannot respond to Trump in 2024 the same way that we did in 2016 because that didn't work, right? Clearly, we got a little bit of 4 years of, some people would say, some relief, some respite, but I would disagree with that. I mean, Joe Biden brought a lot of respite. I mean, props to Biden for navigating us out of a global pandemic that was killing a lot of people who look like you and I and our indigenous comrades and whatnot. That's probably all I'll give Biden like credit for, though. So it's not, we can't do the same thing. We cannot have resistance 2.0, but we also can't freak out. And I agree. I'm not saying that we should have full faith in U.S. systems, which were never built for you and I, Jazari. They were never built for LGBTQIA people. They certainly weren't built for indigenous people. They weren't built for poor and working class people. At the same time, though, we have to find out when and how we can use those systems. And when we can't use those systems, then we'll come up with other stuff.
I also want to share what I was talking about with Doge too. A lot of people are like praising Elon Musk, like, oh, you're uncovering this and you're uncovering that. Has anybody asked Elon Musk what the end game is?
Sure.
Like, okay, so you want to eliminate all of this money and then what?
Well, do you know what this is for, Jazari? Okay, let's.
I know.
Right. Let's let your listeners know what's happening here. Trump's 2017 tax cuts are expiring. He wants to get more money for the billionaire class and has to find a way to offset, these tax cuts for people who, quite frankly, have not been paying as much as they should be. I mean, let's not forget when the last highest tax rate that we had was under a Republican president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, where people like Elon Musk would be paying 85% in taxes. They are trying to find anything and everything that they can cut to rationalize tax cuts for the wealthy.
Exactly. And so when you try to tell people that, like, hey, did they ever say we're doing this tax cut so that your taxes can go down or we can pay down the federal debt? They've never said anything like that. So when people are celebrating them cutting and gutting these different institutions and funding, nowhere in there have they said, oh, I'm doing this because I want to lower the price of eggs and toilet paper for you.
Right, exactly. And let's talk about like one agency that no one is talking about cutting funding for, the Pentagon. Okay, our country is spending 10 times more than the next 6 countries combined. And that includes the People's Republic of China, which has a very, very advanced military, but like really has no interest in going to war with us. And so no one wants to talk about, cutting the Pentagon, whether it's my congressman, Don Bacon, who of course is a brigadier general. We respect him for his service, and that's about it. But like, it's like you're talking about cutting Medicaid and Social Security. So here's my thing, Zari. I mean, you're young enough. Well, I hope I'm not too old and I'm not aging myself, but I'm sure you've seen the original Lion King, the first one that was.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the end of the movie when the hyenas realized that Scar sold them out and then they kill Scar? Like that moment is coming for MAGA. Like Trump is going to be Scar and the hyenas are going to be Trump supporters, and we have to have a place for them, right? And they're going to realize soon. I mean, you've already seen with these government cuts, it's been Republican governors, Republican members of Congress, Republican senators saying, yo, what are you doing? Because Medicaid, Medicare, it's not a left or right thing or conservative liberal thing. United Statesians like Medicaid and they like Medicare and they like Social Security because it's an entitlement.
Exactly. After you've like paid into it, right? So people working 40, 50 years and then paying into the system, and then all of a sudden a billionaire from South Africa can be just like, ow.
A white billionaire from South Africa who doesn't have a great track record of, really providing for poor and working class people. So I'll say this again. I myself have let go, and some friends of mine were coming on your show in about 2 weeks. We won't talk about it today, but we're getting rid of the left, right, binary, the conservative, liberal. This is class warfare. Remember the brother that you had on when I was in Colombia, the brother farmer who was like kind of, and like how we were all agreeing with each other. Like I forget his name. I think it was Blair or something like that. Blake. He was amazing, and I've been in touch with him since. Look, that's what people want right now. We have proven that in Nebraska. We passed paid family medical leave by 75%. That wasn't just all Democrats and blue people voting for that. We passed medical marijuana, and we collectively came together and said, no, later for school choice, we are not going to let you gut our public school system to fund private schools. That was a coalition of Nebraskans from as far west as Scotts Bluff and Chadron, and as far east as Omaha, and all in between Lincoln and Grand Island. And that's where we are right now. We have to stop talking about Democrat, Republican, class warfare. If you are poor and working class, it's time to come together, y'all, because the veil has been lifted. The veil has been lifted, and they are coming for your entitlements, not your benefits. You are entitled to Medicaid. You are entitled to Medicare. You are entitled to Social Security because, as you said, Jazari, you paid into it, and they are coming to take it so that people like Elon Musk can get rich. I think
you can go buy a new super yacht or a new jet.
Exactly. And then we have to pay for when that super yacht crashes and spills a bunch of oils into our lands and waters.
Right. And I tell people, like, this is the sad thing about this all. Like, a lot of people say, he gets us, he understands what we go through. Let me tell you something about these people. These people like high rises on Billionaires Row in Manhattan. These people like parking their super yachts on the Amalfi Coast and going swimming and going to the race car track in Monaco, right? Like these people like going to Champs-Élysées in France and going shopping at Louis Vuitton and Dior, Cartier, but they're past that. They go to Van Cleef Arpels. Like these are those people.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
you get fried chicken shipped to them from another city for lunch.
Right, like these are people who like to buy Falcon jets.
Sorry, I want to impress upon your viewers. This is a book that everyone has to read. It's called Masters of the Universe: The Obscene Wealth of the Ruling Class, What They Do with Their Money, and Why You Should Hate Them Even More. And I mean, this book, it's a very quick and good read by my dear friend Rob Larson. And when you just read the chapter entitled "The Lifestyle," okay. I just want to try to find an excerpt because I underline everything. He refers to it as conspicuous consumption, the concept that expensive goods and services are consumed partially just to impress peers and, of course, people of lesser means, which is us, to get us to all believe that, oh, we just have to work harder and then we can do that. I mean, here we go. High-end menswear from Stefano Ricci flies its tailors to clients around the world to make custom suits. Each suit costs between 10 and 20 grand, and customers are expected to purchase at least 5 for the tailor to make the trip. This is like the lifestyle that they want you and I to fund, and you and I to accommodate. So I don't care if you voted for Trump. This is what's happening right now, and Elon Musk does not care about you. He does not care about your children. He doesn't care about your elders. He's not trying to get people like Jazari and I to have a better life than our parents did. And Jazari and I are the kids of immigrants, and we're the children of immigrants. And there are immigrant parents who right now may have a better life than why they came to this country in the first place, Jazari. That's insane.
Did you see that one Western country was talking about how they're extending passports and citizenship to people who want to return?
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
I mean,
Ghana?
Colombia, where, I visit a lot. I mean, Gustavo Petro, of course, turned a plane around because he didn't like how his repatriates were being treated and offered his own personal presidential plane, because that's the type of man that Presidente Petro is. But you've got Ghana now saying, hey, Black Americans, if you want to come to Ghana, like, I don't know how the Ghanaians feel about that, but like, we don't want to replicate like a colonization of Liberia or anything. But yeah,
I also do want to say, like, a lot of people say, like, Elon Musk isn't getting paid and stuff like that. You got to understand, like, once you accumulate that kind of wealth, like, money is no longer a motivator.
Wait. Like, I'm sorry. He is getting paid. Since Trump has become president, his wealth has almost doubled. So let's
right.
Like,
I mean, like, he's not drawing a salary.
He's not drawing a salary, but his wealth is accumulating more, right?
But ultimately, like, I don't think that's what it was for. So I was listening to Ezra Klein's show where he had Kara Swisher on.
I heard that, yeah.
You listened to it?
Yeah, I listen to liberals so that I understand, like, how to confront them.
Actually, okay,
he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy.
I met Kara Swisher last year.
Uh-huh.
I ran into her at the Webby Awards, which I keep talking about that. I ran into so many amazing people, and I was remembering, I was like, oh my gosh, like, she got an award for her podcast and everything.
Yeah.
And I, like, when she was coming off the stage, like, I kind of went up, I was like, oh my gosh, Kara Swisher, like, I'm a great fan. Like, thank you so much for the work you do and the reporting you do. And she was like, oh, like, thank you, dude. Like, you could tell she wasn't trying to talk too much, but, she was cool. But yeah, so I was listening to that, and, she was talking about, like, a lot of it is just for power, the pursuit of power.
Yes.
After you've made so much money, right? Like, okay, like, what more can you do? Like, it's the constant thirst to be the hero, right? Like, he is on a hero's journey and feels like he's the only one who can save mankind, and he needs to get this power and he needs to burn the system down and remake it in his image on what he thinks will make the human race survive. It's quite a lot.
I mean, we've seen this before, right? I mean, the term is stranger than fiction. Like Elon Musk is literally a Bond villain. Right, like some Bond villain who was successful and got it in their mind that they have to recreate society, and we have to send a patriarchal, semi-alcoholic British agent to take them out. Because I mean that's exactly. I mean, think of all the Bond movies. Like, all the villains are like, Spectre and like Goldfinger and whatnot. These are just like rich people who lose their minds and think that they are the ones that have the answer. Look at Moonraker, where it's like, hey, I want to go into space, and so the best way to do that is to, like, poison the earth. So
and the thing too is that, like, I posted this, I'm like, where's the hero? I mean, like, I just got done watching the first season of The Night Agent on Netflix, and there's always like this undercover hero that works, and the stuff, because when I started to see, like, oh, there was some resistance and they ended up, like, just getting forced, they ended up retiring and saying forget it or resigning, and I'm just like, that's it.
Well, we did have one of those heroes, brother. And his name is Edward Snowden, brother. Edward Snowden. Okay, Edward Snowden, I'm not necessarily, I know some viewers are going to disagree with him being a hero, but Edward Snowden was an ultimate whistleblower for exposing what our government is doing to its citizens. I would say my only disagreement with Edward Snowden is, I don't know about fleeing like the PRC in Russia. That probably didn't help his image. But what he did, yes, it was against the law. But what Edward Snowden saw was basically, this is what's going on. And another one, and I'm not necessarily saying he's a hero. I believe in a diversity of tactics, but I don't want to get you in trouble. Luigi Mangione. Why have you asked yourself why we have not seen any stories recently about Luigi Mangione? Because the public loved him, or so loved him. Left and right. Speaking of that binary, it wasn't just leftists that were praising Mangione, not necessarily for what he did, but for the discussion that he engendered through the act about a corrupt and disgusting and extractive health insurance, not health care, by the way, health insurance scheme. Okay, that is killing people and denying people the care that they need when they need it.
Wild. So I interviewed some students at the protest that just took place, and some of those kids were talking about like his number one issue was climate, and the other one's number one issue was healthcare. And they were high school students, not eligible to vote, but still had a lot of issues that they felt passionate about. And I think that's like the worst thing, knowing that like you are very aware of everything that is going on. You've done research. You want to go out. All you can do is really protest and try to like educate people, because you yourself cannot actually cast a vote. However, that work does do a lot of work with like educating people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I found a lot of young people who, do a lot of research and talk to their parents and like, are able to tell their parents like, look, like I've looked into this and stuff like that. People are more apt to listen to their kids than they would a stranger. Right. But like,
of course, I hope so. Yeah. And so, I think that young people right now are blowing my mind. We saw young people disrupt the DNC convening for all of the candidates who are running for DNC chair. Big props to Sunrise Movement and other young people who are disrupting it. It's something that I think that especially our elders in North Omaha need to hear, right? And it's look, I mean, I'm Jewish, as you know. We have a saying in Judaism, which is the old shall become new and the new shall become holy. And it's not that like we're ageist. You come from an African tradition. We treat our elders like gold. Okay, we treat our elders like gold. That's African. But at the same time, young people are not waiting for some baton to be passed to them. They're taking it, and they're not asking for permission to lead. They are leading, and we have to not make space for that, but understand that space is going to be occupied, and we can either get with the program or get left behind. And I'm just saying that, like, yes, respect our elders, but I'm not going to respect an elder just because they're an elder. Bill Cosby's an elder. Right? Like, I'm not just going to respect Bill Cosby. But that said, is that it is time to start listening to young people. We are renting the planet from, I'm a little older than you. We're probably a lot older than you. But we're renting the planet from you, Jazari. You are renting the planet from high school students. High school students are renting the planet from elementary students. Elementary students are renting the planet from people in pre-K and kindergarten. They have every right. I absolutely think that 16-year-olds, there's a great program in Newark, New Jersey, where 16-year-olds are allowed to vote for their school board members. Yeah. That's it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
I guess that's executed at the state level, right? But federal elections
at the city level, and that makes total sense to me. Wow. Why should a 16-year-old have a say in who is setting the agenda for their learning environment? Right. So I'm really, and I love the work that you do with young people. I'm proud of you, and I appreciate you for doing that. We have to keep that up. I'm meeting with two amazing young sisters next week, Michaela Atkins being one of them, rising star, learning how to go to city council and get more young people involved. And I would say, like, of all the things that I do with my work, that's my favorite. That is just like my favorite thing, indoctrinating young people to take over now. Don't wait. We got climate change, we got anti-trans, anti-LGBTQIA. Your economy is being raided from you right now. Your water, your air. We've got young people already, Jazari. I'm sure you've heard this too. 16, 18-year-olds saying, no, I'm not going to have children because of like what the world looks like. That's horrible. That is such a horrible thing. I mean, if that is your choice, of course, I'm not going to shame people into having kids, but that should be a choice that you make because that's a personal choice, not because of things that are influencing that personal choice based on what they see happening in the world right now. That is so terrible, and it breaks my heart.
It's crazy. It is crazy. Well, what else you got going on? You told me.
Okay, yeah, no, because I got one more thing, and then I got to go finish dinner. Chicken parm tonight. I would save some for you, but I'm not going to see you for like 2 weeks. But I'll cook next time you come to Omaha. Let me know. I will cook for you, and you will love it. But I'm really happy. We've got a very important piece of legislation that was introduced by a Lincoln-based Senator Dungin. Great guy, young himself, only 36. I finally got to speak with the senator earlier this week. He introduced what I would say is probably one of the most important pieces of legislation in a generation in Nebraska. It's a legislative resolution, 22CA, a proposed constitutional amendment. And I will just read it to you because I think that it warrants just like verbatim. So, at the general election in November 2026, the following proposed amendment to the Constitution of Nebraska shall be submitted to the electors, that's us, of the state of Nebraska for approval or rejection, to add Section 32, Article 1 to our state constitution. Quote, all people have a right to a clean and healthy environment, including pure water, clean air, healthy soils, balanced ecosystems, a safe climate, and diverse and abundant native flora and fauna, and to the preservation of the natural, cultural, scenic, recreational, and healthful qualities of the environment. The state and each subdivision thereof shall serve as a trustee of the natural resources of Nebraska and shall conserve, protect, and maintain such resources for the benefit of all the people, including present and future generations. The rights and obligations in this section shall be self-executing. Oh, that's so exciting just to read it. So the hearing for this will be February 20th in Lincoln. I really hope you will be there. We are going to flood it with young people, indigenous people, rural people, urban people, black, brown, everyone in between. To get this passed, I worked on getting it passed in New York State. One exists in Pennsylvania and Hawaii. But Jazari, I already have like national funders, national organizations watching this because they understand that if we get this passed in a prairie state, it will send shockwaves. Think about what we can do to CAFOs. Think about what we can do for indigenous rights, environmental racism, redlining. All of that will come to pass because of this constitutional amendment. So I'm really excited about it. And it also means I'll probably get to see you in Lincoln on February 20th. Yeah. On
February 20th. Yeah. So that's when the hearing is.
Yes, sir.
What do you think of the probability of it getting voted out of committee?
No. There's no chance in hell, probably. That's fine, though, because we are laying the groundwork right now for us to get it on the ballot in 2026. It needs 30 senators to get on the ballot. That's not happening. We know this unicameral. We know what it's about. But if we start educating people now, and we're going to get the investment from local, state, national foundations and organizations, and also like-minded people, we'll get it on the ballot, just like we're going to get reproductive justice on the ballot in 2026, just like we passed paid family medical leave, medical marijuana, and repealing school choice. We can do that. So what Dungin did was sort of, because it's an agricultural state, he planted the seeds, and now it's up to us to provide fertile ground for this to grow. So that the moment it doesn't pass the unicameral, it won't matter because we will still be organized, formed like Voltron, and ready to go to spread this across the state. Because I do think that a coalition of Nebraskans from all walks of life will agree with this. Last thing I'll say, look, Nebraska and New York aren't extremely different, Jazari. I know you're going to think I'm crazy by saying that, but think about it for a second. You've got your urban center in New York City. Okay, yeah, it's got like 8-10 million people. New York State is about 22 million people. We got this passed in New York State, including rural communities, just like in Nebraska, right? Like you leave New York, it gets rural. It's so-called Trump country, Buffalo, all the way up to, the Peekskills and the Catskills, past Buffalo, past Albany, right? You got Rome and all of these other, Plattsburgh. All of these people came together because they agreed that, yes, we have to protect our natural resources for future generations. and that is an indigenous tenet. And so we're going back to our indigenous roots. And so I really do think that, this isn't about the unicameral. We're going to go to the unicameral and make our case, but we are going to be ready to organize and mobilize regardless of what happens in the unicameral. And props to our dear friend Senator Dungin for having the vision and the courage to bring this to the people.
Yeah, Senator Dungin, one of the senators that I really wanted to get on the show to kind of talk about everything going on. He's a very, very intelligent man.
Yeah, he's a good guy too. He's really nice.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of energy, and his staff is great. I've had a great time speaking with them. So please come out on February 20th. You can interview some of the young people who are going to be with us. And,
what day is that?
February 20th is a Thursday.
Thursday. I'm not good at that. I don't know how people can be like, oh, this day is on this day of the week. I gotta look.
Come on, man. It's Black History Month. We got to know all the days.
But I mean, like, you could be like, oh, October 8th, and some be like, oh, that's on a Tuesday. Like,
right.
I don't know how people do that.
I just have a calendar in front of me. I'm not that intelligent. Okay.
Well,
that's what Einstein said. Einstein used to say, why would I memorize anybody's phone number when there's a phone book? So, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Hey, man, super pleasure
Thank
to be
you
with
so much.
Yeah. We'll be in touch soon. And we have more. I'll be on your show with some friends soon for a big announcement. But keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're really crushing it, and I appreciate the work.
I hope it's helpful. Sometimes I'm just like, damn, I feel like I got to be doing way more.
We don't have to be doing way more, but this is great. Keep it up. It's gonna grow. Like I told you on the phone, it's gonna grow. Keep it up. Have fun, and the money will come. That's what my bass teacher used to say to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I make no money off of this.
Right.
I mean, like, what? Like, my Facebook page had like over 700,000 like reach, and Zuckerberg paid me
There you
zero.
go. But I mean, Joe Rogan
not a
didn't
damn
start getting
thing.
paid until he had a vision like you did and kept with it, and now he's very paid. So keep it up. Keep it up. Keep with it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining, Anthony.
Have
We'll
a
be
good
in
weekend.
touch.
Stay safe and warm, brother.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah. Yes. That was Anthony. He's going to be coming on the show with some other folks here in a couple of weeks. So make sure that you are following along and you can stay tuned in for that. Let me know in your comments below what you think about all of this Department of Government Efficiency. I mean, this is getting way, way out there than what people anticipated what it was going to be. And so there's a lot of concern on the things that Elon Musk is doing, And the thing, too, it's that, like, in that podcast, the New York Times that I was listening to, the concern is, like, this man has unlimited money. You know what I mean? Like, he has $400 and some billion. So if you want to cross him and get tied up in court, like, he has the money to waste, which is the wildest thing about all of this. And so, like I was saying with the protest, people were saying, this is how democracy works and Trump is president, get over it. It's not necessarily the fact that he's the president. It's the fact people are protesting things that he's doing and the actions he's taking and the people he is putting in different places. Like, I literally just got a news alert while Anthony was on that President Trump said he planned to take control of the Kennedy Center and intended to fire several board members and install himself as chair. For what? I don't know. But I got to run. This was Free Talk Friday. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like and share to keep the conversation going. I appreciate all of you guys, and thank you for the constant support and always tuning in. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.